can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me. And I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's go, FT Live. It's Braun, Kratz, and Kipnis with you on a Thursday today. A nice FT shirt from Kip too, by the way. And there's hoodies now, which actually, Kip, you're going to need. I love the modeling of the t-shirt, but breaking news in the last few days, there are FT hoodies on foulterritoryshop.com. And I heard that it is a cool -1 billion in Chicago right now.
Don't be scared to send a hoodie to the guy in -5 degrees.
Maybe a brush too. You got some sick Scott hair.
I like it.
Love
this
that
is my favorite Kip hair I've ever seen. It's got a nice flow and a little
a lot of
wave to the
jealousy.
side.
It's like a coif that I have going this morning.
It is so nice. Like
You can tell I slept on this side.
Started from the bottom, now you're here. Look at you.
Just listen. If your jealousy is just pouring through your words right now.
It is so nice.
Speaking of which, here on the jealousy front, you got to play with a dude that just retired. So before we dive into anything else, you weren't on the day that Michael Brantley made it official. So would you like to say any terrible words about one of the world's worst teammates in Uncle Mike?
Honestly, I would like to say terrible words, but I just can't. The guy's still, to this day, one of my better friends. You want to talk about just one of the most down-to-earth, quiet, humble, go about your business the right way, professional teammate that you can have. The guy was awesome to play alongside. He was helpful. It's basically like an extra hitting coach on the team because, I mean, ask around the league. That's one of the more professional at-bats of just being balanced and hitting the ball where it's pitched. And but just an overall, just a great guy. And I'll actually be seeing him, I think, out in March. Might be taking a little trip to Arizona for some golf and some spring training with a couple guys from the old tribe.
Ooh.
Nice. Well,
yeah.
Tell him what's up. Tell him we'd love to have him on sometime.
You got it.
I have 2 follow-up questions for you.
Please.
Number 1 is more of a baseball-y question. Having someone like Michael Brantley on the team, does it actually make other hitters better? Like, can what he does be contagious, just like they say with Carlos Santana for all these years, taking every other pitch?
100% it's contagious. And that's when they mean when you have a guy that you can enter into a lineup where he's a spark plug or where he does something. When you can count on a guy every time through the order to put up a good at bat, a professional at bat where he's not going to get cheated, he's not going to swing out of the zone or chase pitches. He's just going to stay in his zone and wait patiently and get a pitch that he's ready to hit that he can put the barrel on the ball. And it's just he keeps things so simple that it's infectious. That you're like, wow, why don't I do that? As you walk with your head down to the dugout after you chase something in the dirt, you're like, I got to keep things simple. And so 100%, Pete, you watch and you just try to retain everything from him.
I love that. Okay, so then on the same front, personality-wise, he's very simple, kind of quiet, lead by example at times, although you can have a great conversation with him, even media members too, right? Like most of the time you'll have a better conversation with him off camera, media-wise, than you will on camera. So my question is, what was he like? I mean, in the dugout, did he ever just yell and be like, let's fucking go? Or give gifts to guys or anything like that? Or he's more just like in the corner, anyone can go up to him and just talk hitting for an hour?
He is the polar opposite of me. He is like, and Kratz can attest this. I am 0 to 100. I am either like quiet or I have like ADD going down in the dugout and I can't sit still and I'm screaming something or I'm talking crap. He is just even keeled the entire way, the whole way. He's a funny guy though. He's sneaky funny. You're never going to get him to slip up. Like no media question is ever going to get him to say the wrong thing or anything like that. But if you put him in like where he's playing dominoes with Josh Tomlin or we're playing cards in a hotel room, he's one of the funnier dudes there is.
You sad that he didn't get to hit 300? Like, I mean, he was a 300 hitter his whole career, ended at 298.
No,
it shows how, you
just gave me ammo. So good. Now I get to use that against him.
I just looked it up just to double check because when he retired, I thought that's what I had said. But, oh, man, like it makes my hands sweat. Like this dude, is he's the epitome of a 300 hitter. And he also rakes too. He's not just a slapdick. Like he rakes, but like he finished, last few years, it just.
Hey, the body does that. Father Time catches up to everybody. But if you ask anybody, I guarantee if they didn't know that stat, if you asked if he was a 300 hitter, everyone's going to think he is anyways, as he should. He's earned that. We'll round up for him.
We'll round the.
Not to his face, but yeah.
we need him to be on.
I find him behind his back.
Scotty, you're muted.
Sorry, my bad. You know what I'm saying? If, let's say, you're like, oh, he's at 29.8%, you're going to say 30. So if he's 295 or above, I feel like that's 300 for your career.
Yeah.
Right?
He's so good.
I mean, if AJ was here, he would say, no, he's got thousands of at-bats or plate appearances, so 298.
We don't have the wet blanket here today. We got positivity.
Well, let's bring
AJ and his facts holding us back.
Exactly. Yeah. Facts are BS.
We need him on the show.
I do have one more fact before we charge the mound on a signing for the Blue Jays. So we have surpassed 35,000 subs.
Let's go
on YouTube. I think we're at 35.2 or 3. So thanks, fam. Appreciate you. But we're looking for 35 million. So tell your fam and friends and the world that FT is here and we're not going anywhere and we're here every single day, 1 to 3 Eastern. Okay, let's charge the damn mound. This signing happened yesterday. Started reporting facts about it, rumors, what it looked like around when the show was going on. So we had some time to digest it. The Toronto Blue Jays did make a hefty signing here, and Ken confirms it for us. They're in agreement with Yariel Rodríguez, pending a physical. Hurdles remain with his immigration. And I did see one report that said 4 years, 32 million, but not from Ken. And so I'm not sure yet what the numbers exactly look like. But Ken did write about him. And Kratz, we actually did receive quite a few questions and comments about him over the last several weeks. Where is he going to sign? And now we can actually spend some time talking about him. He's definitely a wild card. As you can see, he pitched for Cuba in the WBC, sat out this past season in Japan. Stuff looks like it could be off the charts, but the variables are like beyond Imanaga status. Imanaga, we're debating if he's between a 3 and a 5. This dude could be between a number 2 starter and a mop-up guy.
Yeah, I mean, a mop-up guy, I think, would be a little low. The significant innings as a relief pitcher that he threw in 22, I think shows that can play. Again, he's not a large dude. I think he's like 6'1". So you start to think, okay, well, how does that stuff play out of his hand? I remember the start that he threw in the WBC. And it was really your standard Cuban pitcher with elite velo. Like those guys, they're athletic. They throw from every angle. They'll mix in over the top, side, and then so it's almost like they have three elite pitches that are like 6 elite pitches because they can throw it from different angles. Like, you think of like an Iglesias kind of pitcher, and you lump Cuban pitchers into the same sphere because they play in the professional league down there early, and then they're playing international baseball early when they're young. And this guy, it's intriguing to me because he was over in Japan and had some success in Japan. So it's not like he's coming straight from Cuba and only playing in their Cuban professional league down there.
Kip, the Toronto Blue Jays were seeking the Shohei Ohtani earlier this offseason. And at one point we were duped and thought he might actually sign there. He did not. Since then, here's Rodríguez to add to the rotation, which we can dive into a little bit because Ryu's a free agent. Manoah is also a total wild card. Talk about somebody that could be a top-end starter or not be in the big leagues right now based on what happened last year. And they added IKF, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, but they lost Whit Merrifield. They re-added Kevin Kiermaier. He's already been in their outfield. Dalton Varsho was supposed to play center. Now he's back in the corner for KK, but then that kind of rules out Cody Bellinger. So your thoughts on this and really what the Blue Jays are doing right now. They've had the talent on paper. They've underperformed based on what they look like in my mind.
They're getting there. I think this roster still top to bottom is one of the more impressive rosters in the league. Just with the young guys that are getting better every time with Bichette and Vladdy. And I've always been a fan of their lineup, so I don't think offense has ever been their problem, just from what I've watched. I think it's always coming down to pitching. I think you can look across them. That's not a team you want to get into a slugfest with Chapman and all of them. Like, they really do have a deep lineup in Springer, and it's just you don't want to count on winning ball games 10-9. You'd like to have some starters and some guys that can kind of go out there and limit an offense for 6 to 7 innings. And so I think this is a kind of a low risk, high ceiling signing that they just did. I don't think that's not too much money for starting pitchers, especially for 4 years. If you get a bounce back from Manoah, they're going to be right where they want to be at the end of the season, in my mind.
Yeah, it's kind of like I always forget the word, but in fantasy football, when you draft one running back and then you draft the guy behind him in case there's like a word for that. You're basically hedging your bets.
The backup?
Handcuff.
Yeah. Handcuffing it.
Handcuff. Yeah, they're handcuffing their starting rotation, and he could slide into the bullpen, which everybody needs bullpen help if their starters do what they did last year, which they were elite. But they need a bat. But what Kipnis said, we thought this team was going to hit. We thought this team had picked up some decent pieces. We really like Gausman. We thought Manoah was going to be what Manoah was for the 2022 season. He wasn't. So if this team hits, that's why their projections, when you look at all the Blue Jays projections, that's why they're so high. Because if this lineup doesn't hit, to me, I don't think you need to add a Bellinger. I think you might need to switch out your hitting coach. Sorry, poor hitting coach. Hitting coaches' jobs in Major League Baseball are fleeting. Everyone loses them. I think it's like 1.5 years is the average hitting coach job. But they need to be able to all be clicking on the same cylinder. I mean, think about the fact that they lost Brandon Belt. The dude had like an 856 OPS, and they haven't re-signed that yet. Like, Vladdy needs to pick it up. Bichette had a big year. I think Biggio was not what they thought Biggio was going to be. I don't know that he swings enough. But this lineup should be better than what it was last year. I don't see, as Ken said, paper tigers.
Yeah, that's right. Don't you think they need to switch things up too? That's my only thing. Like, Kip, I get what you're saying where they're kind of building themselves. The problem is, I mean, you're getting close to Bo Bichette and Vladdy Guerrero Jr. free agency too, and some of their starting rotation's good, but getting older. So I feel like they are very much in their winning window. The past couple of years haven't done much. Their winning window might only last for another 2 years right now. So I just expected them to do more. Like Ken said, they'll probably add a lefty bat. Maybe that's just bringing Belt back, or like a Jock Peterson. There's obviously some good DHs. Like I think a Soler would crush there, or a JD Martinez, Justin Turner on the market. But I don't know. I feel like there's got to be something. Give me something to switch it up, or some dude that walks through the clubhouse and you're like, oh shit, things are going to be different with this guy.
Oh, make no mistake. It's win now. It's time to go for their team. Absolutely. They're getting a little bit older. It's time. You can't use that they're younger anymore. Now you've got a couple big league seasons under most of their best players. I love their lineup. I do think it is a little top heavy. I think maybe there is a little a drop off maybe after the 5th or 6th guy, if I recall correctly. But yeah, no, it's a win now mode, and I think instead of looking at it like a handcuff with this signing, as far as I'm concerned, you can never have too many starting pitchers.
Fair.
Yeah,
no, that's fair. Jorge Soler, Blue Jays.
Yeah,
that's
I would
call.
love that. I would love that. It's a good call. A couple quick stats on them. I mean, their offense rankings wise was mid, 8th in runs in the American League. So out of 15 teams, 8th in homers. 6th in OPS. Team OPS plus was 106, so just 6% better than league average, which is mid. They were mid.
It's mid.
They were
They're not supposed to be mid.
No, they're not. Hey, let's bring in our first guest of the day on FT Live. Our friend, and sometimes plays her best Scott Braun impression better than Scott Braun does. Britt Ghiroli from The Athletic joining us right now. You like that line? Britt, great to see you. Let's just bring the Toronto Blue Jays conversation here first for a quick sec, because we've been covering this team the last few years thinking that they're at one point a sleeper to be a World Series team. Now the last couple of years, people are just like, oh, this team should be in the World Series with that rotation and some of the superstar potential in there. Are you satisfied with their offseason so far?
No, not at all. I think, listen, a lot of their offseason was obviously predicated on the idea that they were going to be a serious player for Shohei Ohtani. So no matter what now, it kind of feels like a letdown, right? Had they got Ohtani, we'd be talking about how Toronto really is, one of, if not the team to beat in the American League, and just how that really changes the power dynamic in the AL East. But honestly, guys, it's funny. I was talking to a front office person yesterday about this, but is the window closing? Is it almost closed when you think about Toronto? Because you look at these guys like Vladdy and Bo Bichette, and they really haven't gotten better the way we projected them to, right? So are they closing this window for a championship? Because, this city is pretty starved. They haven't had a whole lot of success, particularly in the postseason, in quite some time. And you just wonder if you're going to look back on it and say, that's the epitome of a team where we all thought, look at this young core coming up. They're going to get veterans when the time is right, and they're going to go to, 2, 3, 4 league championships, maybe a World Series here and there. And they haven't. They haven't been able to replicate that success since the 1990s. And I just wonder if it's going to take another group of new faces before they get there again. So no, I'm not satisfied with their winter at all. I think they needed to go out and spend a lot of money and show people that this is the time, and they haven't really done that, even though we know they've tried, right? We know they've gone after Ohtani. But to me, the plan B that they're now executing leaves a lot to be desired.
Sorry, Britt, I got a call from the Orioles. They were like, wait a minute, are you talking about us in 3 years, 4 years? Is that what I just
That's
didn't.
Another team. Yes.
It's another team. But you said at the beginning of your whole statement, welcome again. You're one of my favorite hosts. Scott has now moved down to number 3. But you said, they've had kind of a disappointing offseason. Sans Dodgers? Who hasn't?
Yeah.
Had a disappointing offseason.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's been a really slow burn, guys. I was off for like 2 weeks around the holidays. I came back and, I had carved out a half a day to catch up on everything I missed. I missed nothing. It turns out I missed nothing. Nothing has happened. So you're right. You can't just pigeonhole Toronto and say they haven't done anything when, hello, Baltimore Orioles here in my backyard who, probably aren't going to get a frontline pitcher, which is all they've needed. So you look around, and if everyone has mediocre off seasons, does that mean you don't fall behind the pack, right? Is that the way to look at it, I guess? If you're a Toronto or you're a Baltimore, is that the Yankees get Juan Soto? I would say the Yankees off season has been okay. Even though he is a rental, we all know he's headed to free agency. They do get that, power bat that they so needed that fits that stadium very well. But otherwise, you're right. It's a whole lot of C's, right? Just passing grades for these teams. And part of it is it's a very weak position player, free agent class past Ohtani. We're still waiting on Cody Bellinger to sign, right? And obviously we've got Snell and Montgomery, and there's a lot of pieces that are still going to come off the board. But I think, this has been really a downer of a hot stove for MLB in general. I kind of think back to the Harper Machado year where nothing happened until those two signed really in March. And it kind of has felt like that, even though there's no Bryce Harper and Manny Machado at the end of this rainbow. There's some Blake Snells and there's some exciting pieces here. But yeah, the Orioles, in my mind, they're up there with Toronto. They may even get a lower grade, guys, because they have the pieces to trade. They have the ability to trade for Dylan Cease. Now, is it too high? That is in the eye of the beholder. Is the cost too high if you don't have another choice? I don't know. They lose Kyle Gibson, who was such a force in their clubhouse. He pitched, I think it was right around 190 innings, and they haven't replaced him. Where do those innings come from? They're not going to get a Blake Snell. So if you don't trade for Dylan Cease and you don't use that prospect capital to make an impact move, are you just betting that there's going to be pieces there in July for you? Are you just betting that all these guys who performed very well and above their projections are going to continue to do that? It's a really precarious spot that they're in for sure.
Let's not ignore the fact the division they play in makes this kind of the whole tough thing. They won 89 games. I think that would have won the AL Central by a few games. I think if they want to keep up with these teams, they're going to have to make a splash. I know we just talked right before you got on here about their lineup and who they brought back. I know you said Kiermaier. Are there any other lefty bats? Like, is it a 0% chance for Cody Bellinger to land there if they wanted to make that big splash? What other lefty bats exist out there on the market right now? Because they're kind of a right-handed dominant lineup here.
Yeah, I was looking at it. There's not a whole lot because the Nationals, that's their primary hole too. Is the Nationals need a left-handed like power bat. Brandon Belt is kind of that next level a little bit, but there's not a whole lot, which is part of the reason why I think Cody Bellinger hasn't signed. They're holding out, hoping that he gets a really significant payday because he's a lot of teams' only option right now, including, like you said, Toronto. And, obviously the Chicago Cubs want to bring him back. And there's just a lot of interest because there aren't any options. So, yes, I agree with you on Toronto. If they were in another division, we may have viewed it through a different lens on one hand. On the other, the Rogers Center they're a publicly traded team, right? So they're trying to get upgrades to the stadium and they're trying to really sell all these luxury boxes. If you're going to do that, you have to give people a reason to believe that you are committed to this team winning. And that means bringing out the big guns. That means getting the big names. Yes, getting Ohtani would have absolutely changed the whole direction of that franchise, the whole direction of baseball in Canada as a country. But if you get a guy like Bellinger, that still makes people believe, okay, they're trying. They're really going for it. We know Toronto has money to spend. We have heard Ross Atkins talk about them wanting to be aggressive, wanting to push the envelope. And like I said, I think there is a belief that they are at the point where that window is going to start shutting. So, if I'm Toronto, I'm going out there very strongly after Cody Bellinger because there aren't a whole lot of other options. I mean, as I mentioned, Brandon Belt, we're getting into a significant drop-off here now. We're getting into a point where you're looking at guys who are either old or you're really hoping to have bounce-back years or, you're not sure how much longer they're going to play. So Bellinger is a guy who is young enough to be that veteran centerpiece of a team that's going to be good for the next couple of years. He's a guy who can do that for you. He can do that for a Toronto Blue Jays, for a Washington Nationals, who I don't think will be in play for Bellinger at all. But, he, in my opinion, is one of those guys left that will make a team say, you know what, we didn't win the offseason. That already went to the Dodgers, the second that they got Yamamoto after getting Ohtani. But you know what? We did better than most other teams, and I think that's how you have to play it right now.
You know what the Blue Jays should say? They should tell their fan base, we want to go full throttle. I feel like that's like an original term that someone should use at some point when they really want to go for it. So just in case that was used in Boston, I just want to clarify that Tom Warner, who's part of the ownership group, was asked this week about the comment. And he basically said, and I'll use at least one part of the line that he gave back, it was not the, quote, most artful comment, but he does believe that Craig Breslow is going to build a winning team ahead of opening day. And here's one more line from him. I quote, I guess the message is that we are confident we're going to field a competitive team. We're going to let Craig do what he does best, which is to build exactly that. It sounded like, and I'll paraphrase completely here, when Breslow spoke this week to Pete Abraham, that he basically said, oh, we're going to let the young kids play and have a good time, which to me means we're going to be in last place because our pitching sucks and we've got a nice young core that's going to take the next, 2 years to build if we don't add stars on free agency to do so. So what do you think about the Red Sox duping their fan base?
Yeah, it's funny because I think somebody wrote that recently, as recent as like last month. Like, Red Sox still believe they can make impact moves, and now you're seeing them walk it all back, and it's become, we changed over baseball operations. That restarts the clock that all these executives love to play on, these 3 to 5 year clocks. Well, you can't possibly now have Breslow be responsible for Chaim Bloom's clock, so now the whole process starts back over, and this year becomes a year to evaluate, right? I think it's all BS. I think if the Red Sox wanted to be the Red Sox again, they could have gone, flexed their financial might, and gotten a few pieces to shorten this up. I think people that are Red Sox fans are irritated with, the general direction of ownership and the way this team is run, which is not like they're the Boston Red Sox. It's like they're Milwaukee Brewers, and I think if you look at Boston and you look at some of their holes and look at the division they're in, if you're not going to make any upgrades, you're going to get left in the dust. And that's exactly what's going to happen here, because we talked about the Yankees having one of the better off seasons. We talked about how the Orioles haven't really done anything, but on paper, the Orioles are ahead of Boston when it comes to their big league ready young talent. Those guys have already been in the big leagues for a year. They've already proven they could handle this arena, this stage, the Gunnar Hendersons, the Adley Rutschmans. So they already have that one up. Tampa Bay is good every year. And we talked about Toronto, who really is probably one big name away from being a legitimate threat to win that division. So where does that leave the Boston Red Sox, but in the basement? And I just don't know going forward what the plan is going to be from Craig Breslow, who inherited a very big job and inherited an organization that isn't sure what they want to do. We've heard all these different directives from ownership. At first it was, we need to be efficient, and they were obsessed with cap space and getting under the luxury tax. And now we hear that they're going to be aggressive again, and they're going to be the Red Sox again, and they're walking that back. So I just don't know if they have a clear sense of where they are headed and what they are doing, especially if they're going to let these young guys play. That is a 2-year process, maybe longer, maybe 3 to 4, before you're actually playing in these American League Championship Series type games again. And that's an eternity if you're a Boston Red Sox fan.
It's kind of, it's probably very frustrating for the Red Sox fans to have their team operate as a small market team for a few years. It must be terrible on them to have to deal with. People go through this sometimes, and you look at the rest of the division as you just spoke about. Is it the worst idea? No fan's going to want to give up on the next year or two, but is it the worst idea to look across your division, look at all these other teams that are in a win now mode, maybe save some bullets, play the young guys, see what you got there, and then make your move here in about 2 or 3 years, maybe when some of these players are coming off the books on these other teams, and that might be your time to strike. No fan wants to hear that, but that might be the best way for Boston to get back there.
But does anyone believe in 2 to 3 years that Tampa Bay is all of a sudden not going to be competitive?
No.
Does anybody believe in 2 to 3 years that the Orioles, with the game's best farm system and a whole bunch of young players now, are not going to be competitive? Those guys are still under team control. Does anybody believe that the New York Yankees, after missing the playoffs last year and, the huge firestorm that we've seen, are all of a sudden in 2 to 3 years going to lay down? Right? So you can't play like that when you're in the division that you're in, I think, at all, especially when you have the financial resources of the Boston Red Sox. So, no, I think that the trendy thing for a while was to tank and then to try. But front offices are realizing now how damaging that is. They're trying to avoid that now. You are seeing less tanking because the game has also de-incentivized it, but also because it doesn't work. For every Houston Astros, fairy tale story, there's 10 other teams who tried and it didn't get done. So there's no guarantee that even if the Red Sox do this tank and try, that even if they're not going to be good for the next couple of years, that when it's their turn, that they're going to actually compete and that they're going to be the Red Sox again. I mean, it is hard to win, and they are in a division where these teams are almost all in win-now scenarios for, I would say, the next 4, 5, even 6 years.
Yeah. Okay. Answer that one.
Yeah, by the way, who is it? Bourbon and Baseball in the chat said, do you think that's why it took so long for someone to accept the GM job? Yeah, I mean, we've had multiple people on here as guests that have said they've spoken to talented front office executives that have turned the job down because they don't feel like it's a respected job and it makes you look bad. It's a reputation killer to an extent. I mean, obviously Dave Dombrowski's not going to get his reputation killed for winning a World Series and then them letting him go and then him having success in Philadelphia. But point is, it's a messy job compared to most others. And those guys or girls, when they get an opportunity like that, they want stability. So, all right, let me take you to the news in the past 24 hours on the media front. So the excuse of the offseason by far from ownership is TV money. We can't do anything. We've lost it all, right? So now we have this deal surfacing with Bally's and Amazon, and keeping in mind, it's a complicated story in terms of how all the regional networks work, but we'll try and keep it high end because obviously people can Google and read tons of articles, including many in The Athletic, about what's going on here. What's your take on if Amazon gets involved on this front? Because I know you and me both have worked for the league in the past. And the one thing I do know is that the league would love to control all of the media and kind of have it all run from within the league office. But it doesn't sound like A, that would be lucrative, and B, that would be some authentic baseball content. That's how I read it if I'm like from a fan's perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the same. I also think, MLB has long salivated over what the NFL has, right? Which is everybody just splits the pie up. There, you don't have to worry about this big market, small market. The league gets all of the money. They divide it all up. It's all under one umbrella. There's like a million reasons that won't work. One is that, the NFL is a very lucrative short season and all of those games are on national TV. Obviously with baseball, you're just not going to have the Royals, Brewers Wednesday afternoon game, broadcast on these national networks. It just doesn't make any sense. But MLB was kind of on the precipice, guys, of having at least 15, which would be half the league, and their rights, had this deal not happened, had Amazon not stepped in and said, hey, we'll invest in Diamond Sports Group. Hey, we'll help you guys out of bankruptcy in exchange, for a part of this newly formed company that they're going to have. And, it's my understanding that the 11 teams that Diamond Sports Group has, are going to fall under this umbrella. 5 of those teams, their streaming rights are owned by Diamond Sports. So you will be able to, if you're an in-market consumer, watch those on Amazon Prime. And now I think from MLB's perspective, why this was such a gut punch is those other 11 teams, which would have been free of all of this at the end of 2024, are now enveloped in a company that is probably not going to go bankrupt anymore. And now these teams can keep negotiating with Diamond Sports Group and Amazon about their individual TV rights. Right now, it kind of renders MLB, which was the savior or hoping to be the savior and have all these rights fall into their lap, it renders them kind of useless here. Because if they had those 15 rights, they could have gone to Amazon themselves. They could have gone to Hulu or anywhere and said, hey, we've got this great package, 15 teams, you could own half the league's rights, and they could have negotiated a streaming package and made money off of it. But now they are really an unnecessary party here because Diamond Sports Group, with this infusion of cash that Amazon is reportedly going to give them, is not going to be bankrupt. They're going to change their direction. And with that, you really are kind of boxing MLB out of not only controlling all of the rights, which, as we said, probably a pipe dream, but now they're not even going to be able to go to Prime and say, hey, we have all these rights, we'd like to sell them. And even if all of these teams decide we want to be done with Diamond, you are now negotiating at a lesser cost. I mean, this is a huge player in Amazon Prime that MLB was hoping to take something to that now is already involved. So it just changes the whole process of who has the power, and it definitely shifts that power away from MLB.
Hey, Kratz, before you ask a question, just wanted to add on to what she's saying. It's a comment. So, and maybe it's a somewhat hot take. MLB doesn't realize this yet, but this is great news for them long term to have another place involved and not them just doing everything. It's just bad when one company is controlling everything. And that includes the content that's going on the screen. If it's one step removed and a place has to be critical, if it's coming from the league, they're going to stomp on it, even if it's good for the game to talk about a topic. If they're one step removed and it's Bally's and Amazon, and you get a call from an owner complaining to the league, they're going to say, it's not our network. If it's the league, they have to address it. And they're going to call producers and broadcasters and say, hey, so you know how the Orioles owner just said he's not going to sign guys for over 150 mil or he's going to charge extra for seats? That's a crazy topic that everyone wants to talk about for the week, but we can't talk about it. And we're the only place to go for these games. So if you take that one step away, I think it's actually going to help them and ultimately make them more money. And also, if you have more places working for you to collect money and do sales, if it's all coming from one place, in my mind, this is just my entrepreneurial brain, I think it's a loss. I just don't think they realize that.
That's fair. Yeah. And I also think, too, that Amazon Prime is a big deal. Everyone gets Prime. Everyone has Prime, right? You're not like putting yourself on Peacock, which people got so upset when the NFL did that, right, for one of the playoff games. So this is actually a really good thing in my mind as well for that reason. And now I think if you look at what, MLB is going to be able to do, I mean, now you kind of have to look at it as, are they going to try to retain some of these teams that they already have? Are they going to try to sell these mini packages, sell the Padres to Prime? I don't know how that's going to work, but I do think that it's better if Amazon Prime has these games and they're not under that just singular umbrella.
Yeah, Amazon's a great brand. Sorry, Kratz, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I this is all like, I'm just trying to learn all this. Like, to me, when all this came out, it was written, I think it was Alden's article.
Gonzalez.
Arden Gonzalez's, thank you. His article, he was like, well, they were kind of floored. They were surprised by this. What was MLB's plan? Was it just to be like, oh, well, we're just going to be here to kind of wait and see until everything hits rock bottom. And then we'll just be like, oh, we'll just swoop this up. It's like MLB doesn't have a plan. And if they had gotten it, just like Scott said, it's like you probably would have run it like, I hate to use the word monopoly, but a monopolistic view. And we just only ever see how the certain people that make decisions in MLB will help grow the game. And I don't think that's good. So what was their plan before Amazon came in to like help this whole situation out, other than, oh, well, we'll just take it all once nobody else can afford it?
Well, and Brady, you spot on, because also if the league runs the whole thing eventually, what companies will do is they will try and obviously contract jobs and kind of centralize everything, right? So that includes pre and post game shows or any kind of content revolving around teams. And we know in our sport, the MLB is not the NFL. So when you have the pre and the post on CBS and Fox and all these spots right before and after games, and then they start talking about the rest of the league, that works for the NFL. That does not work for Major League Baseball. So you need to have 30 separate shows and content plans, and not just like two people saying, hey, thanks for watching Yankees Red Sox. Now let's talk about the Pirates and do a live look for 20 minutes. That doesn't work.
Does this help blackouts in any way?
It might, like, say you're an in-market fan and you cut cable, right, and you don't feel like paying for MLB TV, then I think it does, right? Especially if you're one of those 5 teams that there is streaming rights to. I think, for example, the Detroit Tigers are one of them. So, if you don't get Bally Sports Detroit and you were tired of, paying for your cable package or whatever, but you have Amazon Prime and you live in Detroit or in that, greater metro area, my understanding is you will now be able to watch those games. Now, the question nobody can answer is there an additional fee? Does it come with Prime Video? Do you have to pay some kind of, premium access? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows yet what that's going to look like. But I do think it could help, because a lot of people, like myself included, have cut cable. And unless you're buying the whole league package, which is what I buy every year because I care about all 30 teams, most people just care about one. Unless you're doing it, that way, you're not able to watch your team. So it should help. And getting back to your question, Kratz, MLB was in they were in mediation. They were basically talking things over with Diamond, where they were trying to reach some kind of resolution for this year. That was all they were worried about, was this year, what was going to happen to those 11 teams that Diamond had. Because MLB saw the big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which was at the end of 24, they would take all those teams, because Diamond Sports Group was really on track to be liquidated this year. So they were not going to exist anymore. So that's kind of what MLB was doing, is that they were under the impression that they were just negotiating some way to get these teams paid, some temporary Band-Aid over basically a bullet hole for this whole solution. And now Amazon steps in at the last minute with a Hail Mary of cash and says, wait, we don't need to go liquidate this. Let's form a new company. Here's some money. We'll take all these things over to Prime. So MLB, if you read all the quotes, they were totally blindsided. They didn't know this was even an option. They didn't know that this was as close to done as it's certainly being reported that it is. And so that was their whole role in this, is to kind of, as you said, kind of catch everybody, kind of be that golden parachute, like, hey, come over here. We'll put you on our network, just like we did with San Diego, right? That was what they thought. They didn't think they had any hindrance, any obstacles in the way. And then Amazon showed up, and now we're talking about a decidedly different model moving forward.
Brilliant move by Amazon, by the way, Kratz, trying to educate you as much as possible, because think about it. Would you rather negotiate with a company that is in bankruptcy and more open to creative ideas, or with a company that controls everything and has all the leverage, right? So would they rather negotiate with MLB when they have all the teams, or would they rather negotiate with Bally's, who is going to probably play nicer in the sandbox with them?
100%.
Yeah,
easy.
So it's cool. It's been fun to follow. I think this is a huge win. If it all goes through, I think there's still a lot that has to be figured out. But if it all goes through, I think it's a massive win for baseball fans. So stay tuned on that front. Britt, great to see you. Thank you. So actually, wait, one more thing. One more follow-up, because I remember this from earlier on the Nationals. Are they going to do anything this offseason in the Jason Worth realm of bringing that next wave of talent through, right? Like, you can debate Worth's production on the field a little bit if the contract was worth it. But I think most people would say that was like a demarcation line. Like, now we're trying again. This is going to be a competitive team. Sure, we're a little early, but actually most of the time teams are not that early. We thought the Rangers were early and they won the freaking World Series. So why aren't the Nationals taking a plan like that? In my mind, and through some things behind the scenes that I've talked to with people that are somewhat important, I've heard it has to do with ownership and the fact that they are still looking to kind of test the waters and see if they'll sell the team. And if that's the case, they don't want to wrap up these massive contracts with free agents, especially ones that are 30 plus. I think Soto was a separate case.
Yeah, that's correct. There's so much uncertainty at the top is what I have heard, and it still remains that way. And it kind of hamstrings what Mike Rizzo can do. And they've really essentially done nothing if you look at this offseason. Now they're going to have to do something, right? This can't be it for the Washington Nationals in terms of like their offseason plans. But I don't think, and I mentioned this earlier, Cody Bellinger is a great example, right? That's a signing where you're like, okay, they believe that we can be good in 2025. They're going to bring this guy in. They're going to pay him a lot of money, and we're going to have that veteran presence again. Like, we're going to be legit. That's just not going to happen. That's not in the cards. You know, I don't think ownership sees it that way. They right now want to keep their assets down, keep that payroll low, and hopefully figure out a solution to their own mind-numbing TV issues and then find a buyer, because that's really what's holding up their sale is the continued litigation with Masson and the Orioles over TV rights. So, you know, you look at the Nationals and don't forget that anyone buying that team is paying Steven Strasburg's contract. They're paying deferred money to Max Scherzer for a long time. They're paying Patrick Corbin's salary for the next couple of years. There is money on the books for the Nationals. It is a little bit of buyer's remorse on some of these deals that they kicked out so far. So if the Nationals right now are, if you take all that out, their payroll is small, but they can't take that payroll out. And anybody looking to buy that team is going to look at those checks and balances. So right now, don't expect anything exciting. I mentioned their top need for a lefty power bat. I also mentioned that there's not a whole lot out there. So for Nationals fans, unfortunately, it looks like they're just going to keep playing the young guys, keep giving people who wouldn't have a chance to be in the big leagues otherwise a chance on the Washington Nationals, and really look at 2025. It's kind of that year where they feel like Dylan Cruz could be a guy who, you know, really has it together. You know, Jackson Rutledge, you know, I think they're really looking at 2025 as a time to kind of push their chips in it and maybe, just maybe, have a little bit more certainty when it comes to that ownership role.
So they're doing take a try.
Yeah.
They're
It's time to try.
They're pulling it. It's the division that plays the big factor on that then.
True. Yeah, it's a tough division. I know one thing. If you have a problem, don't bring it into baseball because it'll just last forever. The Nats and Orioles TV situation, blackouts, the Rays and A's ballpark situation, all of these things have existed since I was essentially in diapers. So maybe one day something will get solved. But in the meantime, Britt, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, you can follow Britt at Britt_Ghiroli. Check out her work in The Athletic, and obviously she's on SNY and on here. So Britt, great to see you, and we'll talk to you soon. And, you know, hopefully one or two out of the 1 billion free agents sign in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you. See you, Britt. Britt Ghiroli with us on FT Live. So before we get to our next guest, who is Brendan Donovan, let's actually check out the Nationals, a little deeper look at what their season looked like last year, thanks to BetMGM with some World Series odds. Obviously, this team was supposed to be terrible. They were a little less terrible than anticipated. So before the season started, plus 50,000. We get to July 10th when they are 36-54, almost 20 games under 500. Last place in the division, they went to plus 100,000. AKA, you put $100 down, you would win $100,000 if they ended up winning the World Series, and then they missed it, obviously. So for this year, much more reasonable to start the season at plus 15,000. I think some of that has to do with the fact that they actually had a nice second half, Kratz. So it's a team that, sure, they're not supposed to do anything. It would be a shock if they even were in playoff contention. But that's where you see the odds slip all the way down to plus 15,000, just in case Dylan Cruz is the next Mike Trout and all these dudes swing it. You know, you can't set odds at plus 50,000 with a team like this anymore. They are getting better. I'm a pretty big fan of James Wood as well. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, them not doing anything this offseason definitely hurts their chances of trying to be a sneaky little playoff contender.
Or maybe Vegas made a little bit of money, because I remember last year at 50,000, they had the largest, what's the verbiage? The largest handle or the largest
handle? Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that some people put money on that 50,000. So they might have gotten a little worried that somebody knew something that they didn't know. But this team is not. They're going to get look, like you can look at it, if you're looking at it from a like, are they going to make the playoffs type of standpoint? They're going to get beat up in this division. If you're looking at it from a standpoint of they're not going to make the playoffs, and I know it might sound like I'm saying the exact same thing, but they're going to create havoc in this division. They're going to do what they did last year and push some of these teams like the Marlins, who need every one of their wins to make the playoffs last year, like the Phillies, who are going to need every one of their wins. They're going to push them. And they played well because they were stronger up the middle. I think Keibert Ruiz is a solid catcher. I think he's above average starting catcher. He's locked up for like 6 or 8 years. CJ Abrams made a huge jump. Now, granted, it wasn't a great jump from the year before. You know, the year before, 2022, was not great. He did not have a good showing. Last year, he did really well. I've compared to what he did in 22. So now if James Wood can be that guy, if Dylan Cruz can be that guy, to me, now you go after Max Fried next year. Now you go after Zach Wheeler if the Phillies don't re-sign him, that type of thing. So I think it's a little too early for him.
Yep, I'm with you. So check out the Nationals, obviously, for the rest of the offseason, see what you think. But I would steer clear on the World Series front and maybe look at them for the win total over under, depending on what that looks like when we get towards spring training time. All right, BetMGM users, you can place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the app if you download it or go to betmgm.com, and you will receive $158 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. Download the app or visit the website, sign up and deposit at least $5 into your newly created account. Place a wager in the amount of at least $5 at standard odds price. Once you place that bet, you get $158 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. Got to use the promo code FOUL, FOUL. All right, good stuff. Good start here. Hopefully that was helpful and informative. Oh, by the way, just a little addition, Kratz, I know you're jealous, but we will also be at the Borgata Winter Poker Open. No big deal. And guess who is joining me? I might as well say it, right? We kind of hinted at it, but
definitely
AJ Pierzynski, baby,
is
coming up to Atlantic City. Hey, you guys both got the invites. AJ was lower on the list, right? I mean, I think you guys are probably better poker players than him, although I think he's probably going to be sneaky good and just act like, oh, I'm not that good. But he's probably played quite a bit of cards in his life, being in the big leagues for a long time. But I will be at Borgata next week for a day or two, depending on how we do. And Pierzynski will be there as well. I think it's a 2-day tournament, the one that we're entering. They've had all kinds of tournaments over the last several weeks, but there's a few other times to get involved in person, which is more fun, but also more grueling. So, yeah, it's funny. We got the poker crew on today.
Do you think the legend of Bruce Banner is talked about at those poker games too?
It is.
I mean, the table stuff is, that really wasn't. I did well, but it wasn't awesome. But I mean, the online stuff is just, sometimes you just got to be who you are. Just got to be who you are.
Head scratcher. By the way, Ben Yang, who is the #1 player in the world right now, just followed me on Twitter the other day, and Kratz is like BFF with him because they spent hours together at a poker table. I don't know if you heard about that, Kip, but pretty cool. Yeah. So
I was taking him card for card. He knocked me out with he had a 7. He had like a 7. I don't remember, 7 queen or something, queen 7, and he got 2 7s. He flipped 2 7s, and I had pocket kings, and he took me out. But it was epic.
Yep, it was. Hey, we're ready for our next guest. Joining us on FT Live right now, it's Brendan Donovan of the St. Louis Cardinals. Brendan, great to have you on. And I heard that it was your birthday 2 days ago. So happy birthday. What did you do?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I birthday a couple days ago. I was feeling a little old, so I shaved my face just to see if I look like I lost a couple years. But I share a birthday with Albert, so that's kind of tough.
Ooh. Albert who? Pujols?
Albert Pujols.
Albert quit. Albert, quit. That's not.
We still got the Christmas tree up. We're only here for a couple months out of the year, so instead of getting down here and putting it up, we're just going to leave it up all year long.
Yes, I love that status.
I still get mine.
That is great. That is forward thinking. But Albert quit. Albert's not a baseball player anymore. Like, he's got like a 5-year hiatus where until he's Hall of Famer, then all of a sudden he's going to be, oh, the Cardinals greatest, all that stuff. But right now, this is your birthday, and he doesn't even give us his real age. So let's be honest.
I can't comment on that.
Okay, fair.
Should you?
Fair.
He is listed age 44, Albert. And Brendan, how old did you turn?
I turned 27.
27, right? And now you look 22. So there you go. That
Yeah.
was smart. The shaving worked, dude. You were like a prospect again, even though you've been in the bigs for a few years.
Yeah, they tell you when you're younger you can't show facial hair because then you're just mature. So I was like, if I shave, maybe I get a couple more years, right? Tell Mo.
We will. I like that.
I like
Kip?
that.
Yeah, Kip, you got the beard, but you sometimes were clean shaven, no?
No. I've had this beard since high school almost, it feels like.
You never had the clean shave look ever?
It would be stubble at minimum, never razor shave. I just don't like the way my face looked with shave. So the beard hides the second chin a little bit when it pops out, so we just cover some stuff up.
Brandon, you said you're 27. Did you mean you're 27 years old, or that's how many different gloves you have for all the different positions you're going to play? Can we lock you into one position, kid?
It's
Please.
an award for you.
Dude, I got a new elbow, so I think I can play all the positions now. But man, I used to have a different glove for every infield position, and then I got tired of lugging them around, so I just used the same one at third, short, and second. It's just Stevie from Rawlings. Thank you. You hooked me up, but I'm only using one.
You got it. That's the only one you need, the gold one, because no matter what, now you got that gold patch on there.
I do. I didn't use it last year. It wasn't a superstition thing, but I won it with that same glove, and I just didn't want to change it. But I think I'm thinking about using it this year.
Yeah, do it.
Do you see who liked the photo among others? Look at that. You see that on the screen?
Goldie?
Paul Goldschmidt. No, because Goldie's not on IG. I mean, you tell me. I mean, you get to play with some of the top superstars in our sport for years now, right? Like Goldie and Arenado. What's it like to play with those two?
Yeah, so early on when I was first spring training, I didn't get to go to big league camp until I was on the roster. That was in 22. We had a lockout, so kind of at Cressy, that's where we could go because everyone's locked out. And I'm training with these guys, and I'm kind of just, you got 2 eyes, 1 mouth, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. So I'm just sitting there and I'm just trying to observe, take in as much as I can. And then you get to know them as people. Obviously, they're amazing players, but they're better people. So to be around them, to see their attention to detail in their work, they've master, maybe not be a great word, but they've exemplified practice, right? What they do in practice is they make everything as crisp and as clean as possible, and it's why they can go out there and do the crazy things that they do is because they practice that on a daily basis. And it taught me as a young kid early on just the importance of your routine and all the things that you can control. So when you go out there and play, you just go play.
Who's going to crack the best joke first, Goldie or Arenado?
Arenado. Goldie talks to me, but it's hard to get words out of him.
Oh yeah, he's quiet. Goldie.
Oh, yeah, no.
There's a few topics. Have you ever heard him then start to go though? Because there's a few topics that will light him up, but then obviously often, you bring something up and he's kind of less is more. He can give you the answer you need in a sentence or two, but there are a few topics that can really get him going.
Yeah, I think it's golf. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Nutrition. I mean, we're all on the plane, just hanging out, and Goldie's in the corner reading a book on nutrition. That's why he looks the way that he does. But golf, I mean, he absolutely loves golf. You bring up golf, he will talk about golf for hours.
I want to backtrack and follow up on the Gold Glove comment that Kratz made. So if I recall this correctly, and maybe you can help me on the fact checking, So in 2022, you became the first utility player to win a Gold Glove. Is that true? And do you know what the backstory is to that? Like, was that kind of a newer thing to the Gold Glove situation?
Yeah, so it's a new thing. Halfway through the season, we had a charity event in St. Louis, and my booth at Topgolf was actually with the Rawlings team. So I'm sitting and talking to them and like, hey, we're thinking about doing a utility Gold Glove slot. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know my name would be in the running for it. But I was like, yeah, I think that'd be really special for the league. And then come to find out at the end of the year, I was a finalist. And I think it's important for the game of baseball. I mean, I think that position is utility role, not position. The role is valuable for the club. And sometimes people are like, oh, I want to play one position, but now you're talking about having a Gold Glove for the utility slot. I think it's huge just for the game.
Okay, so I'm going to take you in a different direction here, and there's some fan questions that we'll get to in a second. But you are one of the top names that comes up in fan-related trade proposals, okay? So how much of a compliment do you take that as? Like, there'll be Yankee fans that are like, oh, we just do this little deal and we get Donovan or whatever. Like, the Cardinals aren't trading you. And if teams are asking about you, that's great. That's a compliment anyway. But when so many fan bases are like, yeah, we want Donovan, or yeah, we'll just include Donovan in the deal. How do you feel about being loved by fans beyond just the ones in St. Louis? Of course, they get to watch you every day.
Yeah, no, it's to be wanted. That's pretty cool. Man, I was a kid that I didn't know if I was going to be a big leaguer. So to be in the big leagues and now be wanted by other organizations is great. But the fact that I'm still a Cardinal means that they like me, and I want to play for the Cardinals for a long time, and I want to win with the Cardinals for a long time. So is it a good thing? Absolutely. I know it's easier said than done. You try to control what you can control. Obviously, this baseball is just crazy, but I can control my preparation, and that's kind of what we've been doing this offseason.
All right, so you talk about not sure if you're ever going to make the big leagues or not. South Alabama, okay? Now, I would have never heard of it had not one of my good friends gone there and made the big leagues. Do you know where you rank? Because we don't use WAR all the time, but we bring it up. Do you know where you rank in career WAR out of people who got drafted out of South Alabama University?
No, I have no idea.
Do you know 3 people that are ahead of you? Because there's 8 ahead of you.
I'm going to guess Gonzo.
Yep.
David Freese. Juan Pierre. John Lieber.
Nice.
Man, there's another one I'm missing. Lance Johnson.
Lance Johnson's ahead of you?
Man, that's is Turner Ward on there?
Turner Ward, but he's below you. You got him.
Below. I got Turner.
So you got the active. You got the active right now, unless Freese tries to come back. But
that's
my teammate.
Rights.
My teammate was Adam Lind. That we played together.
Man. That guy raked. Man, that's a good little group there.
Sneaky good group. South Alabama University has created some. Or do you say the University of South Alabama? What do you say?
I say South, or you can even go as far as saying USA. University of South Alabama is a lot of words, so anyone that kind of knows the area, we just say, yeah, I went to South.
Yeah, I mean it's like you missed Marlon Anderson and Adam Lind, but I mean Turner Ward, he's right nipping at your bud there, nipping at your heels. But it is a sneaky university that creates some good baseball players. Is there anybody else that we should be looking out for?
Eddie Stanky. Do you remember? Obviously, you remember that name. In the movie 42, the one that stuck up for Jackie. So it's Eddie Stanky Field. He was the first. He was the first coach at the University of South Alabama. So we call it Stanky Field.
See, look at this. We're learning. We're learning so much.
It's a rich little baseball community down there. I mean, that was probably the most fun I've had in my life. Baseball. We went to 2 regionals. Luckily, one of my good friends, Travis Swaggerty, was a first-round pick out of there, so he got me some exposure. So thank you, Travis.
That's cool. I like that. A little shout out. Yeah, I didn't know that about South Alabama. So, question for you on the Cardinals off season. Your thoughts on adding 3 pitchers, and I'm sure you know a little bit at least about their personalities too. Sonny Gray, who's pretty damn funny, Lance Lynn, who is a total spitfire, and Kyle Gibson, who's nice as hell and always kind of has cool ideas for the team. I think he was part of like the group that was playing chess or something like that with the Orioles. So you've got some good ones coming your way as humans. And then of course, you can kind of go through what happened to the Cardinals last season and how you think this is going to make a difference.
Yeah, so I love the additions. I mean, when you talk about people, I think it's important to have winning people first, and they're all winning people. And then 2, not to mention, right? I mean, Lance won a World Series with us. He knows the Cardinal way. He knows how to win. I ducked Sonny last year. I had an elbow surgery, so I can't imagine that's a fun at bat, but I ducked him. Kyle's coming off a big year in postseason baseball. So you're talking about adding 3 guys that know how to win. You know what you're going to get every 5th day. I'm very excited about those additions. And Mo came out and said we're going after 3 starting pitchers, and he got them. And it's very, very impressive that we got these 3 guys, especially early on in the offseason, so you can kind of add a couple pieces since.
So take me back last season through what you think was the number one reason why the team didn't perform like they had been for years before that, right? Like 22 even for you. I know you're, kind of early in your big league career, but you've seen winning ways in St. Louis.
Yeah, I just think that we didn't do a lot of the little things right. And I want to say little things, everyone's like little things, they're little, right? But they make such a big difference. Whether it's, we weren't great on the bases, we didn't play great defense. When we pitched, we didn't hit, and when we hit, we didn't pitch. It just nothing seemed to click together. So this offseason, we've had some good talks about what's the identity of this club? Like, what have the Cardinals been known for? What's made them so successful? What are our standards, expectations, and what are the core values that we hold? And how can we reestablish them and also set it up for success? Obviously, we lost a lot of leadership over the last couple of years, Albert, Yachty, and Waino. So you're talking about losing 3 people that have been a part of that organization for such a long time. It's like now we need some guys to step up, and we need to show that this organization is still going in the right direction. And I absolutely believe we can. I love the additions, and I love the pieces that we do have.
PD, how far along are you in your rehab right now?
I got 1 week left of throwing. I'm almost at 6 months. We got the surgery in August. I had it was a flexor pronator strain, but the reason why it strained is because I had a partial tear in my UCL.
That's fun.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's I kind of felt it. Definitely a wear and tear thing. There she is. But so I got the surgery in August. Keith Meister in Dallas did it. It's called an internal brace. Almost looks like a shoelace. I have that's kind of a gnarly picture, but I have all the internal gnarly pictures on my phone. I won't pull those out yet. But so you go in and like drill down and you wrap what looks like a shoelace around your UCL and cinch it back down to the bone. The only difference between the internal brace and full Tommy John is you need full TJ is a tendon graft. They pull it out of your forearm or your hamstring. Luckily, I didn't need that, so it cuts the recovery time in half. So progressing really well. I'm full go swinging. I try to get some lives, I believe, tomorrow. I'm hitting off the machine, hitting BP, doing all that fun stuff. Throwing wise, I'm at 165 feet and building, throwing in the mid 80s. So coming for you, Waino. It's been good. Learned a lot about my body. Obviously, surgeries suck, but I think it makes you pull back the cover a little bit and just figure out why did this happen and how can I prevent further injuries.
Well, let me ask you this, because few people are as athletic as you and I to play infield and outfield and all over the place. We're probably the only 2 on this live chat here that can do it. So did you notice, though, do you change your arm slot at all going from outfield to infield? Do you think that might have had something to do with the injury where you might drop down a little bit more in the infield than you do maybe over the top in the outfield, right?
Absolutely. So when I'm playing second, I tend to get a little lower. I think those throws are shorter, quicker. And when you're turning double plays, obviously, you're kind of just catching it and throwing wherever you get the feed from. And then as you start to move around the diamond to the left side of the infield, you tend to get a little more on top of the ball. And then from the outfield, I'm just trying to rip downhill and spin it. So I actually did it on a throw from the outfield. I kind of felt it. Initially, we thought it was the flexor, which it was compensating for the UCL. But I think that it's absolutely a wear and tear thing. The change in the arm angles for sure probably had something to do with it. But I mean, my goal is when I come into spring training, nobody can really tell a difference. Got a great team around me. We've been messing with throwing from all different arm actions and all different distances and all different feel throws, and it honestly feels really good right now.
If you want nobody to tell the difference, you got to do what I do and just have a bad arm. That's
yeah. Is that why you went to second?
That's they couldn't put me. There's no position any closer to first base.
Hey man, just hit the cup from the outfield, right?
Yeah, that's the shortest throw they could find for me, so they moved me to second.
There you go.
What do you got, Kratzy?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, is the Cardinal way still the right way? Because we have a lot of Cardinals on here, and the Cardinals have won forever. They have won forever. So was last year just a blip, and now the Cardinal way is the right way? Or was the Cardinal way because you had Yadier Molina and Wainwright and Pujols till 2010? Was it because of the players, or is the Cardinal way the right way and doesn't need to be updated?
No, I still think it's the right way. Obviously, when you have those three guys, it makes it a little easier. You're talking about generational talents, but playing good defense, running the bases right, pitching, clutch hitting, situational hitting, whatever it is. I mean, that's the Cardinal way, like doing the right thing. Obviously, they believe in keeping things in-house and the developing of players. I still believe that is a big key to why this organization was successful and will continue to be successful. That's my thought process. Curious to know what yours is. Let's hear it.
No, I don't have a thought process. I just know that the dudes that they create out of that organization are phenomenal, top-notch dudes. And if that's what the Cardinal way is, it's about how to be a good guy, and it creates winning, then I love it. But it's always something that always comes up. We want to see your booklet. Like, we want to see the Cardinal way booklet, because we haven't had anybody that's opened the booklet up for us to let us see it. So you still have it.
I don't have it. I'm sorry, but I had to read it in the minor leagues.
Well, I know well, Zach Gallen was the one that told us it was like mandatory reading for him, and he kind of bucked that a little bit, but he kind of was a little pissed about it too. Fair, all fair. Of those guys, I'm going to take Pujols out because he wasn't there for recent future. Yeah, he finished his career there. Who was the biggest loss? I always ask this, pitchers and position players, and I'm pretty much if you're on the same page, and we'll see. But who was the biggest loss, Waino or Yadi?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I love both of them, but when you got someone only throwing every fifth day, now was he impact for a long time? Absolutely. But your catcher, I mean, he runs the show. I've heard a couple people say that when you came in to play St. Louis, you weren't just competing against the pitcher, you were also competing against the catcher. And just from seeing it firsthand, it felt like he was always a step ahead. Just his preparation and just his thought process and his intimidation too. Like, I was pretty intimidated. I was scared to talk to him. I mean, you had some people, they say they get in the box and they go down and they say, "Hey, Yadi, how you doing?" And he kind of just nods back at him. It's like, this is not someone you mess with. I think his ability to just control the game was unlike any other.
His neck tattoo intimidated a lot of people. Let's be honest. His neck tattoo. You can't mess with people with neck tattoos.
No.
That's an accurate statement. I think I was definitely one of those guys that was like, "What's going on, Yadi?" And he just stared at you, and I was like, "All right." And then you 100% are competing against the pitcher and him, because not only the master class that he's putting on back there of stealing strikes for the pitcher, but the game itself that he calls and holding the runners. You could be in the best mood, and after one at bat, you're already pissed at Yadi and the umpire for giving him the call, and it's just, you're like, wow, how am I competing against this guy? I'm not even thinking about the pitcher now, and you're just out of your element, and that's how impactful Yadi can be in a game.
Those two together, like, pretty intimidating. Waino and Yadi on their day was pretty special. Obviously, they did it for a long time, but extremely, extremely intimidating, those two together.
All right, so I got a few fan questions. I actually have a million. I'm going to try and combine a couple of them just in the interest of time. So following up on last season, and I guess it's got some Cardinal way to it as well. I'll do two combined here to start. Jacob said, please ask what the hell happened to the Cardinal defense last season. Went from one of the top defensive teams to last in a season. And I'll add to that with Dr. Anarchy saying, for those, what did he say? Ask Brendan whether he prefers outs above average, UZR, or DRS for statistics. Yes, I'm a stat nerd, he said, on the defensive side. So I feel like those two can kind of be combined, but your thoughts?
So on the defensive side of things, obviously you have shift rules. It's pretty important. Like if you can put three guys on one side of the infield, you're kind of set up for success. You know exactly where this guy's going to hit it. And now you can't go on the other side of the bag. And we did have guys that pitched to contact. I think it opened up a couple more holes. So it was up to us to kind of just set the model and the positioning a little better. I think that was a big part of it. You also had some guys that were playing new positions. I mean, it's a learning curve, right? The big leagues, it's all about, and for me, it's like, it's a daily struggle of like, all right, I haven't been here for a while. It's about making sure I have the reps to create the angles and the situational awareness to know what's supposed to happen. And then on the analytical side, I like defensive runs saved. So the outs above average, obviously, like if you can produce more outs, you're going to have a lot of success. But I like the defensive runs saved. It's like, to me, that is a bit more impactful if you're saving more runs.
Nice. I like that. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Now I will take you to your background. So you have a very unique upbringing, and Dave S. knows about it and says, ask him if he ever visits Germany where he was born.
No, that's one thing I'd love to. We were going to travel this off season, and then I decided I want to be in full rehab with an elbow surgery. So that's on me. Apologize to my wife for that. But I haven't been back. I want to go back. It's one of the places that I want to see. My brother and I were both born there. I was born in Würzburg. My dad was stationed there at the time. Came over to the United States when we were very young, so I don't know much about it. I was a dual citizen until I turned 18, and then I fully declared a U.S. citizen. So it might be a little tougher, but I do want to go back.
Cool. Couple more, and I know Kratz has a question too, but Justin said, what do you think about LA's offseason? So, and I'll add to that. I mean, you know, there's some fans that are like, oh, it's a lock, Dodgers are going to win the World Series. There's some fans that are pissed that the Dodgers are doing so much more than everyone else. And I would imagine you're going to say, yeah, that's why we play the games.
Yeah, it's a gauntlet of a season. I mean, you're talking about 162 games plus postseason. You need, obviously, they went out and got some huge pieces, but we opened there on I don't even, what's opening day? What day is it? End of March? I think it creeps up a little sooner in the spring training every year. So we opened there. I mean, I think it's cool. You know, we get to go in, and I think it's important for us that our philosophy going into the season is we don't really care who we're playing. I think it's important for us to get back to our winning ways, and what better way than to come out and compete against the team that spent the most money this offseason.
Can you give us a little comment on a teammate of yours? Kind of the development path of Jordan Walker last year. You kind of saw him come up big in spring training, kind of have the big name going in there, but sent back down a little bit and worked on some things and then came back up and kind of contributed there a little bit. What was it like to watch that as a teammate perspective?
Yeah, first off, it's an awesome dude. He's more than willing to learn, to try new things. I actually saw him this morning. He's working in the outfield. He's working on a swing in the cage. He's making the right adjustments, and he's freakishly athletic. So the adjustments come a little quicker. He looks good, man. I'm excited for him moving in this offseason. The progress that he's made, and then going into 2024. He's down here in Florida with me. He's got working with our staff on a daily basis. And the last month, I've started to really see him like turn up the intensity a little bit. He's gonna be ready to have a big year.
All right, I got another now former teammate to ask you about via fan question here. Cliff said, what's Tyler O'Neill like in the clubhouse? So how do you think he's going to fare? Obviously playing with him the last couple of years with the Boston Red Sox now getting kind of a fresh opportunity. I would imagine more playing time. And as you know, which fortunately for you, you're able to play all over the field for the Cardinals. If you're an outfielder with St. Louis the last couple of years, it's tough competition. There's a lot of dudes for 3 spots.
Yeah, so I really like T.O. One of my good friends. He was always very good to me, very welcoming when I came into the big leagues. Um, I have no issues with him. I think he's great in the clubhouse. I will not be shocked if he's healthy, if he has a big year. When that guy's right, man, he's arguably one of the best players on the field. He impacts. He's got 2 Gold Gloves in left field. He can run. He's got a hose. He had the big year in 21, so I won't be shocked if he has a big year.
Do you know
he's
his
a good
bicep
dude.
routine?
What's that?
You know his bicep routine?
It's just involves a lot of reps and a lot of different angles, and that guy's sculpted of marble. It's
Good Lord.
honestly amazing. Like, I look at him and I'm like, I'd rather just eat pizza.
That is 100% what my question was going to be. If you look like that, would you ever wear a shirt?
No, I mean, he rocks his crop top, so you can, like, if you have like the bottom of your abs, you're shredded. So he has the shirt that, like, when he leans back, you can see those bottom abs, and I'm like, yeah, you can wear that. You can get away with that. If I wear that, people are like, dude, put a shirt on.
Wait. He has a crop top, like he wears this in public, or it's like his undershirt?
Undershirt. So, but he'll wear it around. So it's like it goes. I guess you'd say, like, if you're sitting down, it meets the shorts, but like if you stand up, like it shows a little bit of bottom ab, which
Kratz
is
not happy.
which
That's
is
not
elite.
that's not for us, Kratz.
No.
No?
See, now this is all coming out here. Okay.
It's a thing.
People are talking about him being a bad teammate. Like, maybe this is why he's a bad teammate. He's showing everybody else up.
Yeah, it makes everyone else look bad with those bottom abs, which are, I will say, the toughest things probably to be able to pull off from a sculpting perspective.
This is why we don't like Scott.
It's the only thing I can really comment on this show and have a little bit of say. It's true.
Don't need that in my life. Mixing a pizza, play 160 games. You can't pull fat, right, Kip?
See, I don't come here to get bullied. What is going on today?
Well, Brendan, it was awesome talking to you, man. Hope you had a good time. Enjoy the rest of the off season. Tell Jordan Walker we said what's up, by the way. And we'll see you in spring training. All right, man. We'll see you in sunny Jupiter.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.
Cheers. Thanks, Brendan. Appreciate you. Brendan Donovan joining FT Live for the first time. It's good stuff. Yeah.
That's a bold
Tyler
move.
O'Neill's what?
He's a solid dude.
He's probably I was going to say the most jacked dude. I mean, the most chiseled dude, I would say, in
Starling
Major League
Marte.
Baseball.
Who'd you say?
Starling Marte.
Most chiseled player in Major League Baseball. And I'm sure we'll
Doesn't
get plenty in the fan chat right now, too.
I
You
get
think
why
Marte
Sting's
over
freak out,
O'Neill?
but-
Yeah, doesn't count.
What doesn't count?
Starling Marte, Kratz's vote for most jacked.
Ben Rortvedt, who I always say his name right, but wrong, but maybe I did it right that time. You know the Yankees catcher who's
I mean,
been
we're going
hurt a lot?
if we're going that style, we're going like Tom Murphy.
That's true.
Tom
my
Murphy is an
gosh.
absolute
Right, but that's different.
specimen.
That's like the bulk thickness truck style build. I'm talking about like you can, do a drawing around each like crevice of muscle. That's
Let's put it
Starling
this way.
Marte, Tyler O'Neill. What?
Kip, quick
What?
answer.
What?
How many chiseled, ripped dudes you ever seen stay on the field for 162?
Zero. They,
Prime Giancarlo Stanton for a few years.
Yeah, but even he said he put on a little bit of weight. Andrew McCutchen, he got up to the big leagues. He's young, but he was shred city, and he said he had to put on like 10 pounds. He called it his running back fat, where like running backs put on weight so they can take on that pounding. You got to put on a little bit, just a little bit. I'm not saying he's not good on a calendar, just saying.
a little elasticity, a little stretching and mobility is way more important than the chiseled feature. I think the hardest offseason I had was going into the 2014 year. I'd like hit the weights as hard as I could, got probably the stiffest too from it, and ended up tearing my oblique in April. Like it just doesn't work. You got to be able to, your body has to be able to move.
Yep. Especially when we don't live in a world of supplements anymore. Like back in the day, some of those dudes, when you can live on supplements, you can take some things that help you get through those little tweaks and pulls.
Well, like creatine or MLB players allowed to do those kind of, because some of them are
certified
approved, right?
ones.
It's NSF, I think is what it's called. Because I've talked to many companies, some even that have wanted to sponsor the show, and sometimes they're like, oh, but we're not NSF approved because it costs a ton of money to be able to get it approved. It's a whole process, but there are things that players take. Like you can have like your basic protein powder if it's approved by the league or whatever that organization is. I don't even know what NSF stands for. So it's not like you can't do anything. It's just you get tested, and you got to be careful that it's an actual, even if it's not something that is illegal like a PED, it still has to be something that's approved. Otherwise, if there's a problem, you can get in trouble for it, because they're basically saying we don't trust that this company doesn't have something that could be tainted or something gets in there unless we approve it and review it and do that whole process and pay some company a ton of money to say, cool, yep, looks good.
There's a banned list, and then NSF just certifies what's in the actual product. And it's like, yep, what's on the back says this, and then they go and check it. Yep, that's this. So it's getting your NSF certification is just certifying that, yes, what they say is in the product is in the product. And there's been some gray areas where I know guys have, I think, like Amino Energy and some other ones lost their NSF certification, but didn't change the product. It was kind of a battle between players and strength coaches and other people, whether they could take it anymore, because they're like, no, it's not NSF anymore. It's like, but the product hasn't changed at all. They just didn't pay to re-up their certification the next year. And you kind of have this little ongoing war with strength coaches and what you can take.
Yep. It sounds like classic corporate world to me.
It's a lot of money too.
Got to pay the toll. Otherwise, they don't care if it's good or not. You got to at least pay the toll. All right, let's get to spreading rumors for a few minutes. Then we're going to talk to Austin Slater of the San Francisco Giants, and he's going to tell us who else the Giants are going to sign this offseason. So maybe not Hector Neris at this price. And I'm all about the people and labor and paying for talent. But Hector Gomez with the tweet that Hector Neris is seeking a 3-year, $50 million deal in free agency. And it's coming after his teammate Kendall Graveman goes down for the season, which is a tough loss for the Houston Astros. I mean, if you look at who pitched for the Astros out of their bullpen last year and who's left, it is actually pretty scary. And I know they've been able to grow young pitching talent on trees for a while now, but I'm not just talking about the Astros. Hector Neris clearly thinks that, his services are worth $50 million. He's coming off ERA-wise a season that was absurd. Although if you look at like the FIP and, the walk, strikeout, stuff like that, his peripherals were pretty similar to the year before. He is one of the better relievers in the sport. I do think, Kratz, it's going to be tough for him to get more than Jordan Hicks at 4 years, 44. Because even if Hicks doesn't work out as a starter, is he not a more highly regarded reliever based on stuff and age and what he's done in the past couple of years too?
Not all those things. Age, yes, absolutely. But you're talking about a guy that goes, to me, if you sign Neris, and I don't think he's going to get 50, I think he's more like a 39 to 42 range. So reach for 50, so you get 40. That's fair. But he's a guy that just goes out and gets it done. You talk about his peripherals. Yes, his peripherals are not as great as you would say his ERA, 1.71, and it kind of came out a little bit in the playoffs. He is going to throw that splitter until the game is over. Either it's going to be strike 3, it's going to be ball 4 and you lose, it's going to be bases loaded, and he's going to throw 6 straight of them and get 3 straight outs with the bases loaded. Like, he is going to throw that pitch, and it's really a secondary pitch as a heater, which he still runs up there to 96. So it's not like he doesn't have a heater. It's the issue of his whip, those peripheral things, which last year were essentially right on par with his career. So if you didn't think he was good enough last year, which he had, he had his deals that he was going through with Houston, then you might not think he's that great this year. But to me, he will be the guy, I think, after Stevenson signs. I think after Robert Stevenson signs, Hader's in another class, but I think he will be the guy that teams will go after.
Can I ask a question? Because you brought up,
absolutely.
I missed this episode. I don't know if you guys I'm sure you guys did talk about it. What are your 2 opinions on making Jordan Hicks a starter? You like that move? Because I kind of like having a guy who throws 104 for an inning rather than I enjoy that rather than changing it and trying to see what he is as a starter.
The reason I like it is because it's San Fran. They are clearly bent as an organization as being completely okay with not being able to eat innings. And I don't think he's going to eat innings. And I have a stipulation to it. Him in the bullpen, there's an intimidation factor of the fact that he hits 105 miles an hour. Absolutely. But he's not even striking out until last year. This is my stipulation. He wasn't even striking out a batter per inning. To me, at the end of the game, especially in a place like San Francisco, you need guys not in a place like San Francisco. You just need guys that let guys put the ball in play. Okay, so you don't need to strike out because it is hard to hit dingers there. It's low-scoring games. So I love that part of it for him. But one thing he did last year was he added a four-seamer. And we actually talked to Ryan Helsley about it because he was his catch partner. And he started throwing a four-seamer that really acted almost like, because his sinker runs so much, it almost acted like a cutter. It didn't cut, but it acted like a cutter, and it was the top of the zone as a third pitch for him. So that pitch alone, he only walked one guy on the four-seamer. Granted, he's not probably throwing it when he's in a ball, a three-ball count, but he has 18 punch-outs on the pitch, and it bumped his strikeouts to more than a strikeout per inning. So can he continue that trend? Maybe. I just don't like it because there's just not a lot of success of guys going from bullpen to starting. But if there's a team, to me, if he would have gone to the Rays and signed the same contract, Rays aren't paying anybody $44 million, then I would have liked it too because of how they use their guys. I think it's good for the Giants. I don't know how successful he'll be as a starter.
Okay. That's fun to think. And then also, you just said it, there's the rabbit hole of going down where how hard it is to hit it out at night at San Fran just makes you laugh about Barry Bonds even more.
Talk about supplements. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. But
True.
If he played in a different stadium, home stadium,
I can't even. He would have had more. He would have had more walks. Like that's. I just don't. I don't understand how he did what he did.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Putting balls where he put them. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous to be able to do what he did as a left-handed hitter in that park.
He would get one or two pitches a night, and he would homer off both of them if there were two.
People don't appreciate that too. That's legitimately like everything's out of the zone. He literally would see two strikes a game, and it'd be like a double and a home run. It would just be the most incredible thing ever.
And he was doing it. Everybody looks at him, look how big and hulking he was. As many Barry Bonds as there was that many pitchers that were on the juice too. So he was facing some cheese. He was facing some dudes that were beamed out of their mind. And he was getting some good stuff.
His at-bat versus Eric Gagne is still one of my favorite at-bats to watch of anything.
Two juicers just getting after it.
Yeah. Obviously, before all that, he was an incredible ball player, but he wasn't one or two pitches a night and they're going, 90 miles. So
he's a Sun Devil.
He was getting the good stuff.
Oh, yeah, he was. Wow.
He's a Sun Devil. That's
same.
Yeah, I mean, same body type, but
Jason Kipnis.
That's why actually I used the color scheme of a bat that I did my whole career was with nod to him, the cherry handle and the black barrel.
Those Sam bats were absolutely gas.
I got one actually. If I may, while you
yes, you may.
Yeah, you can.
What do you mean?
Chair.
Why were they gas?
They were. I mean, Sam bats came out. They were like one of the first like maple bats that became popular, and it just had a cool logo. Like the guys that would have the Sam bat were like those were the guys. Like if you had see that like.
Nice.
It was a trend. It was.
They were big. They were like, I mean, Pujols when he was young in St. Louis used it. I think Pedroia for a while was a Sam bat. You knew which guys were there. I tried, so I loved it coming up. I I'm trying to think of what else I swung. And then even when I tried to get away from Sambat, it just nothing felt the same, and I never made the switch. So I used it my whole career.
Yeah, Pujols used it for a little bit, but then Pujols became Marucci. He went Louisville, and then he became Marucci. He had that I-13, but the Sam bat, I think they ended up being bought by Wilson at some point, and
the Rideau Crusher.
Yeah, the Rideau Crusher.
Is that how you say it?
I think it's the Rideau.
There you go.
EAU? I'm sure we'll get some help from the chat. EAU is usually like oh, right?
This is
I don't know.
Yeah, Rideau. Like
Rideau.
There needs to be an X at the end.
Rodeo Drive.
Rodeo Drive.
This is totally an off-season discussion, and we're in the off-season. But like bats are something that are not discussed enough because unless you have the right people talking about it, you're not really going to the depth that you need to talk about. Like you talk about a model, you find a model that you really like. But then like I swung Ash, and I was very fortunate because I swung Ash and I swung Louisville, and so not many people swung it. A lot of guys swing maple, and that's just what they felt was good. So I had the pick of so much better wood as a know-nothing player. The Louisville guy, the actual guy that would spin the bats was like, you swing Ash. You swing a bigger Ash bat so I can give you the best Ash because there's only a handful of guys that I make Ash bats for that are more prominent than you. So he has to give those guys the bats, the straighter grains, the less grains, all that stuff. And I just think like guys, it made me think of it because Sam bats, if you swung a Sam bat, like you were a dude. Like they weren't just making a ton of Sam bats for everybody. Like it was guys like Silver Slugger winners were getting Sam bats.
Louisville.
Go ahead,
Scotty.
I was just gonna say it was like some exclusive club. Like guys would try and be like, "Hey, can I get my hands on one?"
Yeah, and for Kip to have it, you knew he was legit.
Louisville cornered the market kind of when we were probably coming up through the minor leagues and stuff. That's the only bats you were given were Louisville Sluggers, basically.
Right, unless you had a connection with an agent who would buy you bats, but they become expensive too.
Sure, and or if you get a deal from somewhere else, then Louisville kind of all the like Sambat, Marucci, all these other ones kind of started cornering the market from there on, and Louisville kind of subsided. But they've made a good comeback from what I've seen.
Yeah, Louisville, you mean?
Yeah.
Louisville signed a bunch of guys right at the end of my career. I had a signature bat. Like that was when I knew I made it. Like it was time for me to quit. They gave me a signature bat. And then I went to the factory and found out that they had given out like 200 that year. But hey, you know what? I got one too. And so I forever have a signature bat. But I mean, during my time, it was like, I'm trying to think if I have on the wall, I have, there's Max Bat, Trout. He swings Old Hickory. There's Marucci. Victus is really hot with the kids right now. Like the young kids, they really like them because they make all these cool designs.
Acuña's Louisville.
Is he?
Yeah.
See, like, and that would be as a catcher. I always looked at dudes' bats. I would always look at guys' bats and like try to see like what kind of model they would swing.
Would you pick it up after they like ran to first or hit something? No,
I never wanted to touch their garbage. But I wanted anything I wanted to do was call pitches that would miss their bat. So I never wanted to touch it. I would never pick it up when they would like hit a foul ball and come running back to get it. I would not pick it up. I wasn't trying to be a jerk. It just was like, it's not my, I know, you're shaking your head. You can talk to my first baseman. I wasn't going to pick him up. But
chivalry is dead. I
would definitely look at a guy and I would profile him based on his bat. If there's a dude that swung like a 271 and I look up and he's hitting 210, I'm like, this guy's going down. But if he's using a 271 and I look up and he's hitting 300, I'm like,
yeah, that's supposed to be a high contact guy.
Slider away. Like we're going away. And if you get a guy that's swinging like an I-13, like, and it looks like Ozzy Albies, like it looks like his bat's like 35 inches long. I'm like, Oh, intimidation.
It's like those old Mark McGuire bats that they use. Those I-13s are huge.
Yep, that's what I swung. I swung an I-13.
Yeah.
Hey, let's bring in our next guest on FT Live, and might as well bring the back conversation in there. I don't know how much he caught of it.
Swings.
Austin Slater joining us right now. Yeah, what do you got? What are you swinging around these days?
Yeah, I like that combo. I was digging it. I'm swinging an I-13, like modified I-13. But yeah, hey, you're right. Ozzy swinging a 35-inch bat. That thing looks like it's just as tall as him almost.
Seriously,
it swings him.
Yeah.
But you're I-13 now. Are you like a 33 and a half, 34 guy?
33 and a half, 31 and a half. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you had to put the weight in there. I get it. You're -2. You're a drop 2 guy. But I switched. So I was swinging a 34. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I got to make sure everyone knows I hit 209 in the big leagues. Okay. So this is just my only hitting discussion. And AJ's not on here to just rip me because I couldn't hit. But I switched to a 34 and a half back in like 2006. And literally, I think Louisville put the extra half an inch. They made the barrel an inch longer. Like the 34 and a half I-13 looks like it's huge.
Yeah, I tried a 34 for a while when I was swinging ash, trying to get that like steel rod wood.
Yep.
And then as soon as I got to the big leagues, had to change that real quick because, you're seeing 95, 98 pretty much every day. So that was a little tough on the hands.
You know,
Yeah.
that 34, that's the other part, Scotty, not to go even farther. Like he said, 34. Like now all of a sudden you're getting a bat that's like an absolute it's just iron.
Log.
Like it will never break, and it has super pop. But you got to face dudes that are throwing like when I came up, like 86, 89.
Yeah, your classic AAA starter throwing 89. You can
AWR.
catch up to that.
Yeah. Hey, Austin, let's get to your performance then. So I want to point this out. First few years in the bigs, you were close to league average. These guys probably know one of the most basic stats nowadays. It's a little more advanced that I think is easy for people to comprehend is OPS plus. I'll read it out. League average is 100. 2020, 151. 2021, 101. 2022, 121. 2023, 107. Right? And obviously when you go above that mark, it's very impressive. You're very much a impactful contributor in the big leagues. Do you think you're underrated?
I like to think so. I've been used. We had a Cap and a staff that was pretty analytically driven. So they were using me in situations where they thought, I could best succeed, and that was mostly just against left-handed pitchers. So historically, I think in my career, I've done really, really well against them, coming off the bench or starting just against the left-handed starters. And I think early in my career, I was playing for Boch, who was very much ride the hot hand kind of guy. And you go in a little slump, and then next thing you know, you're facing the closer in a National League game off the bench. Doesn't matter what hand he is, you're hitting for the pitcher. And so that can sink the stats even further. But like that experience though that I got doing that, even though it was difficult, I think kind of helped me to get to where I am now.
Wait, so you're saying there wasn't like something in 2019 that like catapulted your career after a little bit of ups and downs earlier? There wasn't like a single person who was really good looking that catapulted your career or anything like that?
No, maybe some guys helped along the way. There's no doubt. There's quite a few of those guys that have helped, especially the good looking ones. But
none of them are here.
Yeah. Was able to make some swing adjustments, and then seeing guys. I don't know if you've talked on the show about like Craig Wallenbrock and some of these other like quote unquote hitting gurus. And was able to go see them, and then we got a staff hitting coaches that made some impact, like Justin Bealey and Donnie Ecker, who's now in Texas. He's been incredible with them. I think you can see it from their numbers, but he was with us in 2020 and 2021. And so those guys definitely had a huge impact as well.
We talk all the time about Cap and how the Giants kind of employed their team and deployed them out onto the field. Some guys, they're done in the fifth inning. Do you feel like now that Bo Mel's taken over, do you feel like he's going to be able to put you in the same situations to have a lot of value, because we talk about free agents not wanting to come there for a 1 year, come to San Francisco for a 1 year thing. Ooh, I'm not going to be able to upgrade my value if I'm only getting 400 at bats and I need 650.
Yeah, I think Bill Mel brings like a perfect blend of kind of like the ultra new school and kind of the old school mentality. Like if I've played against him forever with the A's, he's managed the A's and the Padres, and he still pinch hits quite a bit and deploys his roster in that way. I think like you can look back at the A's, they had Pinder and Tony Kemp, platooning, and but I think he likes the more traditional, like, hey, I'm down to platoon a couple positions, but I'm going to ride or die with my guys. And so I think that'll be a slight difference from last year, and where you start pinch hitting for everyone. And I'm not saying that's wrong, because we did that in 2021 and won 107 games. So I think it can work as long as the personnel's right and guys buy in. But I think the traditional setup tends to help team morale and guys, as like there's ups and downs in the season, and you're in one of your down slumps and you start getting pinch hit for in the fourth or fifth, that can start messing with you a little bit. But if you're a platoon guy and that and you expect that, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Austin, you've been known now for years as someone that's good at just going with the flow, right? Because you've been in this system for a while and trusting the process, for lack of better terms. So How many guys, obviously without naming them, Kratz is going to say name them, have you come across that have really struggled mentally with the fact that they're platooning more, or they're getting taken out of a game mid-game and they felt like they were just hitting their stride? I'm sure you've come across quite a few guys that get to the clubhouse after the game and they're really pissed off just with the process, even though they knew what they signed up for, at least some of them.
Yeah, I think I think first of all, it's more of the, if you're not going well, sometimes you want to just grind through it, and sometimes you're like, hey, get me the fuck out of this game, you're like, get me out of here. Like I want someone else to help the team win. So I think there's like ebbs and flows of it with guys, but I think it's more of just the difficulty of coming off the bench and learning how to do that well. That is an adjustment unless you've done it. So I think it depends on the personnel. I think guys have struggled with it, and some guys take to it really well. It's hard to say how someone's going to react. With the National League rules changing now to the permanent DH, you have less and less guys that have done that in the past. So I think it's only going to kind of get harder from here.
Yeah, but have you ever seen anybody that's like, wow, I'm hot, man, I hope they keep platooning me, or no, I hope they don't platoon me anymore because I'm hot. Like, it's usually the guys that struggle, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I've been in that situation where I've been over 300 and still doing the platoon stuff, and but it's maybe a little bit different for me because it's something I've done a lot in the past, and I'll voice my opinions here and there, but at the end of the day, like, I just want to win. Like, you've been on good teams, you've been on bad teams. It's just way more fun to go to the yard when everyone's clicking and you're winning ball games, and it doesn't matter how. But when the team's struggling and that stuff starts happening, then it can turn south real quick.
So you guys going to be on which kind of team are you going to be on this year? Which
I
of
think
those
we're going to
two
be on
teams?
a winning team. Yeah? I think so. I think I think we're gonna play better defense this year, which has been kind of something that's been our Achilles heel the last 2 years. I think that's going to be a focus. We brought in Lee from Korea, and he's supposed to be an incredible center fielder, and that's gonna, I think, help our outfield defense quite a bit. And then I think we've got pieces around the infield that can play some defense. So I think that with our pitching is how we're going to win some ball games. And then I think our hitters, we had a incredible second half collapse in terms of production. So I think if we're able to just find a little more consistency in the second half, we'll be good. I mean, we were holding on to a wild card spot pretty much the whole year until probably the last 2.5 weeks. So I think there's some things that are going in our direction, and I think we'll be on a winning club this year.
I'm a fan. I don't think people realize how hard it is to platoon and to have success like that. The guys who get to play every single day can work through some stuff and they have more chances to get going. But if you don't play for 2 or 3 days and expect it just to contribute right away, I really don't think people understand how hard that is to stay locked in, to make sure you're doing all your drills and all like that, and to keep feeling good. And that's what I'm going to transition into. A bone spur from your back last year.
Elbow for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
your elbow.
Elbow. Yeah.
How did that come about, and how are you feeling now?
Yeah. It's probably been something that has been there for a while, but I was having some nerve issues in my arm pretty much all year. So I was on and off prednisone a couple times and kind of just like playing through it. I think I hit the IL for it a couple times. So it was just something I was playing through last year and was able to take care of it this offseason. Had the surgery and back to hitting and throwing, and so it should be full go for spring training. But it was definitely not the best season for health reasons last year, but we were able to make it through and help the team.
The good old dose pack got you through some stuff, huh?
Got me feeling really nice. Yeah.
I've been on that once or twice.
That'll clear up the best.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We talk about it all the time, and I kind of mentioned it just yesterday. We're talking about the Giants are going to be built on like what you said, defense and pitching. Do you feel like that takes pressure off you as a hitter, or do you feel like, ooh, I got to do more because this is a big park, unless it's a day game when the birds come flying in for all the trash? Like, that's the only time we can hit dingers, like night games. I got to do a certain thing. Or is it less pressure because they don't expect much? We're just going to put the ball in play and see what happens.
Yeah, I think early in my career, you go from the PCL, as you guys know, which is the launching pad, to then, going to Oracle to play your games. It's definitely an adjustment, and you start hitting balls and you're like, oh, that's gone. And then it's caught at the warning track and you're like, all right, like I gotta swing harder. And that's never a good place to be. So I think, the age of analytics has actually kind of helped, and, the WRC plus, these things that are starting to adjust for ballpark factors. And I think more and more guys are starting to understand, how these park adjusted stats, work, and that, hey, like if I just play my game, it's gonna be good at the end of the year, and I'm gonna be evaluated fairly, and I don't need to worry about, I don't need to put any extra juice into it. So, but I do think, when your team is built on pitching and defense, it does take a little pressure off the offense. Like, we just need timely hitting, we need to run the bases well, and play old school baseball, which move the runner, get them in, which I think can help an offense kind of maintain a level balance line throughout the course of the season, so you don't have to push too hard.
Another thing that we've heard coming out of San Francisco is the fact that people don't want to come and sign there. People don't want to, which I think can kind of be crap, because Judge got offered a huge contract. Correa actually agreed to a contract. So, like, people have, like, they're offering and people have accepted. Correa accepted it last year, but the narrative out of it is, oh, people don't want to live in San Francisco. Can you agree with that or completely disagree with it?
Well, so I live in San Francisco full time. So, I would fundamentally have to disagree with that. I do think that there sometimes is this misconception about San Francisco, and a lot of it is just because, where teams stay in the city. They stay at hotels that are couple blocks away from probably the worst part of the city, and every city's got their armpits. New York has them, Chicago, everywhere. But usually the teams stay a little further away, and you're able to gauge the city a little bit better. It's just a little unfortunate that in San Francisco, most of the hotels the teams stay at are right in the armpit, so or close. So that's something that I talk to guys. I saw Jordan Hicks this morning. He's about to do his press conference for signing, I was giving him recs on places to go and neighborhoods that are great. He wants to live in the city, which I think is phenomenal. And it's a beautiful city. I mean, hopefully you were able to take some time and go explore when you're visiting, but and get out of Union Square and the Tenderloin area and check it out. But there's unbelievable spots in the city: Golden Gate Park, Presidio, North Beach. So yeah, I like to push back on it, but I do think that is a perception that's persistent throughout the league, and it's a little unfortunate because it's a beautiful city.
Now you're a Jacksonville guy. Are you now, after going to Stanford, playing for the Giants for 100 years, are you a San Francisco guy? Are you a Cali guy now? I need to know this because in baseball, for the fans, like where you're from, like you go to Jacksonville, you go play, I think the AA teams in Jacksonville or something, or AAA now, I'm not sure what they are. You go there and it rains. People are like, oh man, this is the armpit of America, Jacksonville. So where's your allegiance?
Hey, my driver's license says California now, so I guess I'm staying strong to the Bay Area right now. But Jacksonville's got its nice parts too. We're on the up and up.
Okay, that's fair.
Hey, Austin, what else did you hear from Jordan Hicks? Give us the lowdown of the reaction to that signing and can kind of combine it with the rest of your evaluation of what the Giants have been up to this offseason so far. We'll get to Lee and Robbie Ray as well.
Yeah, I think he was excited. I mean, he was going through like the physical process yesterday, and so got to talk to him just for a quick second. And he sounds excited. They're going to let him start, which I think is great. I'm glad he's on our team. He's one of those guys that you face, and he throws. He averages over 100 on his fastball. But you see him, and then you see like Helsley, who also throws 100 for the Cardinals. And there's something about the way that Hicks throws that it looks like 120 after seeing Helsley. Like he's jumping down the mound, he's coming like on top of you, and he's got just power sink. So he was probably my least favorite guy to face in the league, and so it's always nice to add those guys to your roster so you don't have to face them anymore. And so I'm excited. He's got the sinker. He gets a lot of ground balls. He's going to keep the ball in the park, and he's going to punch some tickets. So I think him with Logan Webb, and we get Cobb back, and then Robbie Ray back halfway through. I think that's a pretty elite top four right there.
And are you ready for the grandson of the wind?
Grandson of the wind? Oh,
do you know about this? Yeah, that's his nickname out there, Jung-Hoo Lee.
I saw the videos. I was able to meet him when he came through. He's got a great personality, and he kept telling us to treat him like a rookie, and I was like, well, you got an MVP over there in Korea, but he wants the whole American experience, and he looks like he can ball a little bit, so excited about that.
I like that. So Kratz sometimes thinks it's unfair that the pros coming over from Japan or Korea are eligible to be rookies, right, Kratz? But if they're treated like rookies by their teammates, I think that helps a little bit.
I'm in on that.
Yeah, he was really excited about like rookie dress up. Like he wants to be all in on it. I was like, "Are you sure?" I respected it, but I was like, we don't have to do that. And he's like, no, I want to do it. We're like, okay, like, hey, like, more to you. Like, we'll do it if that's what you want.
Make him sing. Make him sing on the front of the bus.
Oh, I mean, that's a guarantee. Regardless, everyone gets up there for us at some point. So, got to show off the vocals. Who was
the best? Who was the best this year? I always ask this. I'm a big front of the bus guy, but
yeah, Mania was pretty elite. He's got a good voice. Blake Sable, actually sneaky, really good voice too. He was almost a little too eager to get up there as a rookie. But
yeah, that doesn't count. That doesn't count then. Who ended up in the crapper because they were the worst?
Oh man, Casey Schmidt ended up in there quite a bit. I think that was more by choice like he would mouth off like with the intent of like getting guys to react, which was fun, kept it lively, and you got to have a guy like that keeps it interesting. So it was fun that he was able to do that and took it in stride, and put him in there for a couple seconds and then he comes right out. So
Kratz, do you remember what you had to dress up as your rookie?
I dressed up as a beer maid. It was the only thing that pseudo fit, but I kept the outfit, and I've tried to wear it for Halloween for like, I mean, at least the last 6 years. And my wife's like, "We are not opening the door if you are dressed that way." And I was like, "All right," but I keep it. I definitely keep it. Kip, you remember your first song that you ever sang?
Temptations, I think I went with. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I did not have a pleasant dress up. This wasn't unique or anything. I think they went to like the Target and got like superhero underwear, like whitey tighties, but just underwear. And I think it was like Shelly Duncan or something, just like lined us up off the bus and had to like walk back to the hotel in like a single file line almost.
In just underwear?
In Detroit too.
Oh.
Yeah. There's some fun ones. I've seen like cheerleading outfits are like with tutus and rollerblades that they had a rollerblade back to the hotel from 300 yards away. You'll have the bus stop and they can just kind of rollerblade the rest of the way. I've had but the beer maid, like they would be in those outfits and have to rollerblade up and down like the plane to serve drinks to the older guys or anything what they needed. And it's a fun time. I've had guys have a blast with it. I've seen guys that it was like pulling teeth on them to get them to do one. There's probably one story I couldn't share. I'll share off. It's the person that it's pertaining to is the reason why.
Sure, fair.
I think the best one we had the Reno 911 cop outfits.
Yes.
So like the short booty shorts on the guys. They all actually they bought in. And it was a lot of fun. They were serving drinks on the plane wearing those. So that was pretty good. That was probably our best one.
Austin, last one for you. So I think you're still part of the PA, right? Obviously everyone's part of the PA, but in terms of an executive subcommittee role, are you still the team rep?
I am executive subcommittee. I'm pension rep. So moved on. I handed off the team rep role to Lamont Wade. So
nice. Just
wearing one hat now, which nice.
It's a big lucrative hat that needs to be, taken care of, I'm sure, for all the players on the pension side. So my question for you, just being a bigger part of the union representing the players, I ask this to most in this spot. If you're a commissioner for a day and you can do anything, it could be rules, it could be business, it could be literally anything. You could add 10 teams, subtract 5, whatever you want. What would you do that you think would improve the game overall as a sport, as a business, as a fan experience?
It was something that we harped on quite a bit in the last CBA, and that was like the anti-tanking measures. I think, it's hard as a fan of the game to watch a team just tear it down and just wave the white flag before the season ever starts. And I think that's the beautiful thing about baseball. It's 162 games. Every team has the same chance to start out the year. And you see teams like the Pirates got out to this crazy hot start and their fans got excited. And we go to Pittsburgh when they're still playing pretty good ball and stadium's packed and fans want to go out and watch it. And I think it's tough, as a fan base to see your club suck for 5 years. And they're saying like, hey, no, this is how we have to do it. And it's just not actually the case. Like you don't have to tear everything down. You can go out and sign, 5, 6, mid-tier free agents, not break the bank and have a competitive ball club and keep fans and kids engaged in the game and grow your fan base. So I think, I don't know if there's one thing. I would have the lottery draft like all the way up and down the league. I think, I think that you could put in a commission maybe from the owner's office or the MLB league office to ensure that there's teams not intentionally tanking for draft picks on the rebuild. I think that's probably where I would start because, I think that would help players, in free agency, but it would also just help fans in the game of baseball.
That's by far the best place to start. We are all on the same page on that one. We talk about it quite a bit. We need our sport to be super competitive from top to bottom, and that is the way to do it. Some people complain about, some teams spending more than others, but yeah, other teams can spend more. They just choose not to because they're incentivized not to. So yeah, that's a great call, dude. I like that. It would make many fan bases way happier, and happy fan bases lead to better experiences, lead to more money for everyone, lead to our sport thriving. So well said, dude. It's great to have you on, Austin. Really appreciate you joining us for the first time here on FT Live. Hope you had fun, and enjoy the rest of the offseason. We'll see you in spring training.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you, Austin. Great stuff. Austin Slater, the San Francisco Giants, pouring it in with player guests this week, and there's more tomorrow too, which we'll give you a little preview of. But let's slap hands. The world famous Kratz hats that has a new addition to it. So Kip, pay extra attention to what Kratz has. Go ahead.
Slater's got incredible beard game, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Just a Pittsburgh Pirate. It's my first ever call-up hat. Look at that. Number 38 in there. Oldie but a goodie.
Oh, man. The nostalgia factor is going to up the grades.
But you got to grade
Kip,
it.
You got to grade it like elementary school status. So A through F, what do you think of the hat? And, anything can go into your grade.
I'm going with a C plus, and I'm saying it's an original hat because I really do like the vintage Pittsburgh ones more. There's nothing fancy about the hat itself, but I do like that it's the call-up one. So
okay, nice.
Right in the middle for me.
That's why I get a C+.
We get the vibes here. Kratz, he's going to be a tough grader.
The vintage Pittsburgh hats are some of the coolest hats around, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I should have. Next time I'll try to remember Kip's on vintage pirate hat.
But I mean, it's just a simple. There's not much to that one.
All right, ready for this guest list tomorrow? We'll be at Todd Father's. Kratz, are you making a little trip too?
I'm not, and it's looking like there's going to be some snow. So that actually,
fantastic! I can't wait for that. So
Yeah,
I'm flying across the country. I'm trying to make it there. I'll do my best. Hopefully at Todd Father's tomorrow, but we will have a show regardless. Davis Schneider, the living legend on the Toronto Blue Jays. Ken Rosenthal back at you with some rumors and reports and all that. And will anyone sign? Aaron Boone of the New York Yankees, the skipper, back for another season. We'll get his evaluation of how the offseason's going so far for the Yanks. Good looking guest list. Yeah, hell yeah. And one more reminder, there are hoodies. If you're in a cold place, foulterritoryshop.com. Otherwise, if you're in like Arizona or Florida or something like that, yes, there will be a hoodie delivered by a stork. It'll drop it right in your lap at some point when you're in the office, planning the big restaurant reveal and all of that in the opening. So hoodie coming soon. But for everyone else, check it out. foulterritoryshop.com. We will see you on Friday. Later, peeps.
if your water is dripping, you need a hoodie.